Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live. Today is Sunday, October the 4th. It's horrible. I forgot in English. So the 10th month is October 4th, and it is 9 o'clock. It is time to get started. Welcome again to another live. I just want to start with the little trivia. There's an American president. His name is James Garfield. He died about 150 years ago, so this is a long time ago. Times have changed. But James Garfield could speak many languages at the same time. He spoke Latin, Greek, and nobody speaks Latin these days. Actually, he hasn't spoken Latin for a long time. But he could speak many languages, and for games, he would write with one hand in Latin, and in the other hand with Greek. And so he wrote simultaneously two different languages at the same time. That's depressing. I can't write Portuguese with one hand at one time. So that's an interesting story. So I hope literacy, I think you call that alphabetização, is very important. Então, let's get started, shall we? I'm going to go to share screen, go to tonight's live immediately. So it is shortly after 9 o'clock, and let's go. I'm going to keep this around 45 minutes. And Paulo, whoops, let's do this here. We have Paulo. Paulo, you're now famous around the world. Good evening, Paulo. And it's a good night tonight. Very good weather. So hopefully there are more people out there watching as well. So unfortunately, we have to go to our share screen right away. All right, there we go. It'll take me a few seconds. And down. Oops. And I'm going to close the window. Sorry, guys. My studio with my makeshift studio office. And let's get started. You know this slide. I start every class with this slide. Let's get started. Vamos começar. There's get. The word get and the condition after get is started. So it doesn't translate well. So we just say vamos começar. So let's get started. Stuff. Now we have bold for new text. Some of you will be new text. Some of you will be old text. But we'll please be patient. Italics, prepositions. Then we have asterisks, will be the adverbs with y, and very similar to Portuguese. And then brackets. Brackets will be any verb in the third column. And then the red letters. Any words with, all the words rather, with any, some, no, and every. And the blue letters are the essential words. These are the words we need for the intermediates to improve, to get better. So intermediates, you know these. We need to know these words. And then the underline. These will be the key words tonight. So keywords tonight, like last week, we have could, would, and should. But also we have the gerunds. Now these are certain words that end with ing. Now after a preposition, the verb becomes a gerund. And gerunds, remember, are not verbs. Ando, indo, in Portuguese, gerúndio, they are not verbs. So it's very different. We will look at these. Sometimes the subject or the object, obviously these are things. So we need to make them a thing, the verbs a thing. And we do that by calling it a gerund or making it a gerund. Adjectives, adjetivos. The game was interesting. It was an interesting game. So, confusão, interessante in Portuguese. So, interesting in English. And after certain verbs, I believe 2 weeks ago, we looked at avoid. So, I avoid going to the doctor. Então, and then causative verbs. These are verbs that cause things to happen. And good news, there are only 3 of these causative verbs. What are they? Well, we have, and here it causes something. I'll have my boss give you a call. I'll have my boss. Here, fazer. But in English, I'll have my boss give you a call. There's less force. And here's more force. My wife makes me wash the dishes. Fazer de novo, but it's with more force. My wife has me wash the dishes? No, she makes me. Okay. And then get. Now, I'm one step ahead of my wife. I get my daughter to wash them for me for 10 reais. And it doesn't translate well. Eu pego, eu faço. So I get my daughter to wash the dishes for me for 10 reais. Então, now first we got a little vocabulary. Now, remember in the bold, we need to remember those. Remember Tuesday and Thursday night? So we have run, ran. I'm sorry, I have the order wrong. Run, ran, run. Oh, forgive me. Out of. So run out of is acabar. Tempo passado, ran. You guys know this. And terceira coluna, run. Então, run out of. We will look at this. I ran out of gas. Now, release is soltar. And we have many verbs for release, but it's a formal word, release. So and then in order to, para. So to can be para in order to. Now these are 2 verbs. In order is 2 verbs, and it's a sequence. I can't do the second verb without the first. In order to play football, you need to pay the price. So in order to play, you need to pay. So pay first, play second. So in order to, this is a sequence of 2 verbs. And you can always use to. You don't need in order to. If you say to, that's fine. But remember, I'll say in order to sometimes, and you need to understand me. Então, other than this, according to Google, mais do que isso, and além disso, mais do que isso. I was confused. I don't know if both will work, but this is what I found on Google. We'll look at this in a few minutes. Então, structure, estrutura, almost the same word. And then bribe. We looked at bribe, I believe, 2 weeks ago. Bribe is suborno. And then exile. Exile is exilio. Exilio. Almost the same word. And then blank, in branco. So we have 4 words here to remember. Run out of, release, other than this, and structure. All right, let's go to our presentation tonight. And it's called the Book of Malachi. The only Italian guy in the Old Testament. Now, you know Malachias. It is in Portuguese Malachias, but in Italian it's Malachi, and some people pronounce this Malachi, like Italian, but he's the only Italian guy. Sorry for my joke. Okay. Now, first we have a timeline. Let's take a look at the timeline. Here's the beginning. Now, in the beginning, gerundio, God created the heavens and the earth. The beginning. That's the thing. God created the heavens and the earth. This means heavens and the earth, members, everything. Jewish expression. Now, about 4,000 years before Jesus, before Christ, BC. Now, here you say, hace antes de Cristo. Before Christ, we have the beginning of civilization. So civilization started 4,000 years before Jesus, around 6,000 years ago. And about 600 years before Jesus, fast forward, we move very quickly here, 3,400 years quickly. Judea went into exile. not Israel. Now remember, there was a divided Israel. Is Israel into the north and Judea, and they had a civil war. Guerra Civil. They divided, and Israel is almost 200 years before they went into exile, and now Judea went into exile. God ran out of patience. Deus, a paciência de Deus acabou. So ran out of. We have looked at this in the past. I ran out of gas. We ran out of time. So run out of Alcanzar or not Alcanzar. Oh, nossa, I can't remember. De repente. Oh, nossa, my Portuguese is. Anyhow, yeah, let me do this real quick. Oh boy, I can't believe I forgot this word. Run out of. Oh no, so it doesn't give me in Portuguese. Oh nossa. Então, acabar. Oof. Então, so God ran out of patience. A paciência de Deus acabou. Então, now what happened during the exile? What happened during the exile? This I want to know, Pedro. What happened during the exile? Now, 586, Babylon conquered Judea. You know this word, conquistou Judea, and they had Judea exiled. Now, here's that causative verb, had. Now, remember, I tell everybody in the beginning, have is extremely important in English. And this is one of those times. They had Judea exiled. And they made the best of Israel, the best people of Israel. Here's another causative verb. They made the best of Israel go back to Babylon. I originally had Nebuchadnezzar, but the king of Babylon, but I changed my mind. It was too big. So I changed Nebuchadnezzar to Babylon. So I didn't change the he. It should be they. They made the best of Israel, the best, go back to Babylon. And in 539, Persia conquered Babylon. So, and then Persia released the Israelites. It should be the Judeans. Sorry, guys. Oh, boy. So Persia released the Judeans, and they could go wherever they wanted. Now, sometimes we use the word Israelite for all the Jews. So, but in this case, it should be Judeans because these are the people from Judea. It's a separate part. The people from Israel were gone. So these people from Judea could go wherever they wanted. If they wanted to go back to Israel, that's fine. If they wanted to go to Tarsus, visit Paul, that's Paul's grandfather, that's okay. If they wanted to go to Tarshish and visit Jonah, they could go wherever they wanted. Now, why was there an exile? Now, after conquering a nation, now here's the preposition after. So the verb becomes conquering. After conquering a nation, an exile was better than controlling the people. It's expensive, and you can't kill them all. So an exile was better than controlling the people. This kind of thing, you remember kind, tipo, was very common back then. Every nation had their own religion. Propria religião. Every nation had their own religion. They not only moved some people out, so not only, but they had people from other nations moved in. So the reason why they did this is to confuse their religion and identity. So they couldn't organize. They couldn't attack. So they were confused. And when they do this, they can take the money from this nation. They can take everything and leave the people there. You work, we'll let you live, but we're going to take everything. So it didn't make sense to kill them all in town. And Israel is the only country to survive an exile. You know this word? We looked at this. Sobreviver. Almost the same word, survive. All right. Now, after the exile, many of the Jews returned home. And there were 5 more books written then. Which ones were they? Ezra, Nehemiah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. So these are the 5 books after the exile. All the other books were written before the exile or during the exile. Então, these 5 books. Então, this is the end of the Old Testament period. This is the end, o final, the Old Testament, just these 5 books. And many think it ended around 450 BC, in or around this time. Now, what is the last book of the Old Testament? What is the last book? Well, it depends on who you ask. If the person is Christian, they will say Malachi. But if the person is Jewish, they're going to say 2 Chronicles. Well, actually, it should be Chronicles, because in the Jewish religion, 1st and 2nd Chronicles are one book, and we divided them. So we have 39 books. The Jewish Bible has 24. Only 24 books. It's the same books, but they're only ordered and grouped differently. For example, the minor prophets are considered one book. That's 10 books for us, one book for the Jews. So they have 24, and we have 39. Now, what happened between the testaments? This is important. Now, many pages have some blank, Bibles have some blank pages there. Now, blank pages in branco. And it represents the time when God was silent. Now, Paulo, you remember this because we didn't know this at the same time. Somebody had to show us that. I forgot who it was. The blank pages between the Old and the New Testament. That was news to me because God is never silent. Of course. Was God silent? Of course not. He's never silent. It just didn't have somebody writing. It's like saying God is not speaking today. There's that preposition like, so the gerund comes after like. It is like, como, saying God is not speaking today. Now, in order to understand the time of Jesus, now here's the 2 verbs. In order to understand the time of Jesus, we need to understand what happened between the Old and the New Testament. And in order to understand this time, we need to look at the last book of the Old Testament, and you know this is Malachi. Now, who wrote Malachi? Good question, Pedro. Who wrote Malachi? It means my messenger. Mensajero, meu mensajero. There is nobody known in Israel by this name, and nobody knows in the Jewish religion. They don't know. They guess. Ezra, Nehemiah. The styles are totally different, but nobody knows. Now, Malachi 3:1 says, "See, I'm going to send my messenger." I'm going to send my messenger. That's the only reference we have to my messenger. It's called my messenger, Malachi. Now, when was it written? Nobody knows this either. It's a big mystery. Nobody knows this either. So remember, either's também negativa. But we have an idea because the writer used the Persian word for governor. You know this word, gobernador. So it was written after the exile. So that means it was written after 539, probably around, most people believe it was written around 450 to 400. because there are similarities to other books written around this time. Now, the first known copies of Malachi appear in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I have looked for this first copy, looked everywhere, and I can't find one. The first known copy is in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Actually, many books of the Bible, the first known copies. But there's no reference to Malachi before that. There's just the 12. They mention the 12 minor prophets, but they don't say names. They don't say anything else. The name Malachi never appears. And there are also similarities with the book of Ecclesiasticus. Now, don't be confused with Ecclesiastes. This book was written around 200, 175, and I believe it's found in the Catholic Bible. This is apocryphal books. The Jews don't accept it, and the evangelicals don't accept it, but the Catholics accept it. This is a real book. It was written at this time. It's not a fraude. No é fraude. So it's a real book. The Catholics decided to include it, and the evangelicals didn't. Now there's I think 9 books between the Old and the New Testaments, and I believe this is one of them. That's correct. So other than this, we have no idea. So is this além disso? Além disso? Mais do que isso? We have no idea. He's a mystery. This is the English word mystery, not the Greek word mystery. We don't know anything about this guy. We have some information, but nothing after that. Now, remember, this is not the same book. Now, Ecclesiastes, by the way, was written, everybody thinks was written by Solomon. Anyhow, now, do you remember the prophet Daniel? Everybody remembers the prophet Daniel. They remember 2 names from the Old Testament when they were kids. Jonah and the whale. Remember Jonah and the whale, Baleia? Well, Jonah, he had a similar fate, thrown into the animals, in this case, the lions. So everybody remembers this when they were a kid, the story of Daniel and the lions, and they didn't eat him. All right. So the 2 stories, Jonah and Daniel, for some reason. What about Daniel, Pedro? I know you were thinking about this. Now, according to tradition, he didn't go back to Israel after the exile. He stayed. More Jews lived outside Israel than inside when Jesus was born. So there were more Jews living out of Israel at this time. Actually, many centuries, there were more Jews outside Israel. And Daniel became the leader of the Magi. Now, I think it's the same, almost the same word in Portuguese. This is according to tradition. He became the leader of the Magi. And you remember these guys. They visited Jesus soon after he was born. Logo depois. We don't know how soon. Some people think 2 years after Jesus was born. Anyhow, maybe the writer of Malachi lived or came from Babylon. I don't know. Nobody knows. And that's why the writer used the word governor. Anyhow, now to summarize, we've looked at this. I believe sumarizar. Summarize, after the exile, many Jews stayed in Babylon. They stayed. They were still there in Iraq. This is present-day Iraqi. So there are many Jews. They have left. I think there are a few still there after Saddam Hussein, after the wars. They decided to leave. The climate is getting worse there in Babylon with the Muslimanos. So many Jews stayed in Babylon for generations, for centuries, until today. Now this means Malachi could have been written between 475 and 175 BC. There's 300 years. Now there's a word could have been. Could have been, podría ter, written. Now the could have been, you have two verbs in terceira coluna. Now could have been is a sequence, and then written is the condition. Malachi podría ter escrito in this 300-year window, janela. It could have been written in Israel or Babylon. Podría ter escrito in Israel and Babylon. Now, the year 175 is very important in history. Sorry, guys, many of you, oh, Pedro, please know history. But this is a very strange story. Now, Israel at the time was occupied by an empire, Seleucid Empire. This is after Alexander the Great died. He divided his kingdom in 4 pieces, and one of them is the Seleucid Empire. And Israel still kept its social and religious structure, estructura. And you know this word keep, kept, that is manter in this case. There was no king or national prophet. And socially, Israel was run by the priests in the Sanhedrin. So the Sanhedrin was active. The priests were more religious, and the Sanhedrin was more political. Now the brother of the high priest offered the Seleucids a bribe. Now this suborno ele ofereceu suborno. He wanted to be the high priest, and he was going to pay. He did pay the Seleucids, and the Seleucids agreed. So he got the Seleucids to make him high priest. So we have 2 causative verbs there. He got the Seleucids to make him high priest. All right. Now the Seleucids had a new king. His name was Antiochus Epiphanes. I hope I spelled that correctly. Antiochus the fourth. I'm sorry, the 4th. I knew I forgot something. He is the 4th. Cuarto. You may remember him. Some people now may remembers. This is a tal vez, but it's a verbo auxiliar. You may remember him, and he is responsible for the abomination of desolation. And that's mentioned in the book of Daniel. So, now that's fascinating. Gerundio, Pedro. That's fascinating. What happened next, Pedro? I want to know. Well, the new high priest lasted for 3 years. Now, you know, many of you know last is último, but here it's a verb. Lasted. Ele durou 3 years. New high priest lasted for 3 years. He introduced Greek culture to Israel. He introduced Greek culture, and this was big. After Alexander the Great, the Greek culture started to come into Israel, but not everybody liked it. And now, in 172, a guy named Menelaus, he offered even more money. Ate mesmo is even, ate mesmo, more money to the Seleucids. And they agreed and made him the new high priest. Alto sacerdote, I believe. So this is the first time since Moses and Aaron, this is 1,000 years, when there was not a high priest from the tribu of Levi. So there had always been a priest, a high priest from the tribe of Levi. And that's Intel. And the priesthood became corrupt. Now, priesthood is the institution of the priests, sacerdotes, became corrupt. Intel. Now, who was the high priest in Jesus' time? Caiaphas. And he was appointed by the Romans. So the Jews at this time, everything went wrong for the Jews after this time. And that's for another day. But he ruled for 18 years, this guy, Caiaphas. So he did something right, well, according to the Romans. So, all right. Did anything else happen around 175 BC? Well, this is when the Pharisees appear in history at the same time. You remember the Pharisees. These are the people who fought with Jesus. So they were the real conservatives in the conservative religious group. They didn't want the Greek influence. They believed in their oral law and traditions. These are found nowhere, en ningún lugar, in the Bible. This oral law and traditions. So Luke called them lovers of money. So they replaced one bad institution with another bad institution, or tried to. And really it has, because today's Judaism is the Pharisees' religion from 2,000 years ago. So now, how does Malachi start? Now, I promised this was about Malachi. Let's look at it. So it starts with a prophecy, a word of the Lord to Israel through Malachi, or through my messenger. And today we're going to look at Malachi 10 through 15. But first, okay, more vocabulary. You insist. Now, set, we need to look at this word. This is an important word in English. We need this. Set is this establecer and 1,000 other verbs. Configurar, can be por, many verbs. Então, cheat. We've looked at this verb, trapacear. Dare, ousar. Dare, ousar. Load is carga. So this, now load can be a verb, but here it's just carga. Disabled, according to Google, gave me desativado. Somebody that's disabled is something that is really more unable, now capaz. So a disabled person is not able, capaz, to do certain things. So a blind person, uma pessoa cega, is considered disabled because they can't see. So they are not able to see. So, então, I don't know if that translates correctly from Google. Now, suponha. This is from Google. I've never seen this word before, suponha, before tonight. So I'm trusting in Google. And then male and female. Now, these are obviously concerned with men and women, but not, this is the gender, gênero, masculino e feminino. So, então, we have goats, cabra. Então, and one more, flaw. Almost the same word in Portuguese. Flaw, falha. Então, now verse 10, I'm not pleased with you, says the Lord. Now we see that God is not happy. I will not accept any of the offerings you bring. Now here's gerúndio. This is the object. Ofertas. Now usually we say offer. I have an offer. That's a thing. I have an offer. But offerings is more for like a sacrifice, sacrificio, or something religious. It's an offering. Então, verse 11, my name will be great among the nations. Among the nations really means the Gentiles. They will worship me from where the sun rises, sobe, in the east to where it sets in the west. Now here's por. Now sunset, it's one word. It's a thing, that's por sol. So I didn't write this here, sorry. But they will worship, adorar, from where this sun rises in the east to where it sets in the west. This is everywhere. The sun never sets. So around the world, it just travels. So this is everywhere. In every place, incense and pure offerings will be brought to me. Pure offerings, ofertas puras. That's because my name will be great among the nations. Again, the Lord said. And so here, God will be great through Israel, or in this case, Judea, but really the Jewish nation, because Judea had many people from around Israel, from Israel. So they moved from Israel to Judea. So it had many tribes. So maybe Israel can apply here. God will be great through Israel. They had a problem because they thought Israel will be great through God. They will be great. Not Israel, or not God. But so they had things confused. Oof. Anyhow, verse 12. But you treat my name, remember this word, tratar, you treat my name as if it were not holy. Now, as if is como, as if it were not holy. And you remember, holy is santo. You say the Lord's altar is unclean. Now, usually unclean, we say sujo, except when it comes to religion, unclean. Lord's altar is unclean, and they. But the people with the skin disease, like leprosy, they were called unclean. So it's something that was horrible. And you look down. Now, look down. Obviously, look down means oyar parbaisho, literally. But look down really means disrespect. And you disrespect. When you look down on somebody, that means you disrespect that person. Here's disrespect the sacrifice. So as if is like, but so technically it is a conjunction. It is conjunction because after that comes the subject verb, as if it were not holy. So I am as hungry as a horse. So here as, so that's a like, but in this case, we'll look at that later. Sorry, I used a bad example. Now I sing like Roberto Carlos, or I sing as if Roberto Carlos. The second one does not make sense. So this is as if is I call it a semi-conditional, but we will look at this again. We need to focus. Everybody, we need to focus on the word as. Confusing mismo. Intel, verse 13. You say, what a heavy load our work is, and you turn up your nose. Now here, look down. Remember, look down is the disrespect. Look down on this. But turn up your nose is, you have the same thing in Portuguese. Turn up your nose. So I am arrogant. The word arrogant, arrogante. So you turn up your nose. I am superior. I am superior. So these people were lazy. What a heavy load. Carga pesada our work is, huh? You act as if you hate working for me. There's, in this case, you act like you hate working for me. Yes, it works. Sometimes it works. You act as if you hate working. Now here is working is the gerundio. Hate is the verb, and after hate, on certain verbs, it is only gerundio. So you hate working for me, says the Lord who rules over all. It can be you hate the work, but some verbs like avoid, evitar, is only gerundio. I avoid going to the dentist. I avoid spending money. Então, you bring animals that have been hurt, machucado, or you bring disabled or sick animals. I don't know if desativado works here, but there are animals that are not the best, obviously. Disabled or sick animals, doente. Then you dare, there's that word ozar, you dare. And this is a strong word in English. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Don't try that, or you will be disciplined. Then you dare, this is strong, to offer them to me as sacrifices. Então, should I accept them from you, says the Lord? Should I accept them? Well, we know the answer. Suppose you have a male sheep or goat that does not have any flaws. Nenhuma falha. Now there's a word suppose. Suponia, says Google. You have a male sheep. Goat, cabra, and sheep is, sheep is lamb, sheep. I forgot the word. We use the material from their, oh my goodness, I can't remember. De repente. Então, and you promise to offer it to me, but then you sacrifice an animal that has flaws. So you say, here's the best, and you give me something different that is not the best. When you do that, you cheat me. Trapacear, maybe the word trair would be a better word. And anyone who cheats me is under a curse, under my curse, rather, maldição, under my curse. After all, sobretudo, I am a great king, says the Lord, who rules over all. Sobre tudo. Então, the other nations have respect. You know this word, respeito, for my name. So why don't you respect it? Now, this is a strong section of Malachi. Why is it very strong? Because this is a question of maturity for the Jews. But they had, the Jews had direct contact with God. They had the Word of God. They had prophets. They had people who were priests, kings, even, who were loyal to God. They knew they had everything in front of them. But it's a question of maturity. But for some people, they just don't know. They just don't know. And everybody is in that situation. We don't know. So I have been there. This question of maturity, and everybody has been there, really. There were times we don't know some things in life, and we just need to learn it. And I was very fortunate. I had people explain them to me and really lived. They lived an example, and that was not an inspiration, but that was very good for me because I didn't know. I wasn't a bad person. I just didn't know. Or sometimes life explained these things to us. So we're all there, but these people are the Jews. It's called maturity. This religious class should have known better. There should have, deveria ter sabido better. They should have known. They had direct contact with God. God worked through the religious class oftentimes. Então, now what happened to the Jews? They have always, here I put it in the tempo passado, it should be tempo perfeito. They have always wanted to go their own way, proprio caminho. But in the past, no passado, there was always an adult in the room. This is spiritual maturity, an adult in the room. And in the past, there was Deborah, Moses, Joshua, David, Isaiah, Esther, Jeremiah, and others, many more that aren't even in the Bible. So they were always there. But at this time, no, the religious class became 100% corrupt. And they led Israel in the national rejection. You know this word, rejeição nacional of Israel, or really Judah and Israel, but let's call it Israel. Então, now what do you think about Malachi, Pedro? What do you think? I think Malachi was written a lot later than people think. I think Malachi was written a lot later than people think. And it has more in common with Romans in the New Testament than any of the books in the Old Testament. And we will find out why I say this next week. Então, find out, descobrir. So we are going to stop here. Hold on for just a moment. I'm going to go back to the studio. And stop screen. Oh boy. I have and now somebody's having fun on the on our Intel on the conversation here. So I have a quick question, couple of 2 or 3 quick questions here. What is the last book in the Jewish New Testament? What is the last book in the Jewish New Testament? Let's see if anybody knows this. I'll put this on the screen. All right, who knows this book here? What is the last book of the Jewish New Testament? Is it is it Isaiah? Is it Jeremiah? Is it Malachi? Or is it Revelation? Or is it something else? All right. What is the last book of the Jewish New Testament? That's a trick question, guys. Pegaginia. There is no last book in the Jewish New Testament. They don't have a New Testament. They only have the Old Testament. So, anyhow, how many books do we have in the Old Testament, in the evangelical Old Testament? How many books do we have in the Old Testament? Is it 24, 39, 66, or another number? Well, that number is, we have 39. Remember, the Jews have 24. All righty. Enough fun for tonight, guys. It is about 9:48. I wanted to keep this around 45 minutes. So we'll stop here. And everybody have a good night and a good week, and see you in class or next Sunday night. All right. Good night, everybody. Thanks for participating.